Folks, and welcome back to another episode of CamBro Conversations with your host, Colin Campbell. And today I'm joined by Nathan Collins, PT, online coach, content creator, and we're going to be speaking about should you drop out to chase your dream, as well as a host of other interesting topics. Nathan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Cole, mate. And I really appreciate you inviting me to come on the podcast. Obviously, I've listened to your podcast so far, and you've got some fantastic episodes with some fantastic guests. So honoured to be on here, mate.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another cracking episode, and you're certainly up there with the level of guests that we want to be having conversations with, Nathan. With any good podcast, we have a little bit of an introduction at the start to tell the listeners who don't already know you a little bit about yourself. And with your story, Nathan, I think it's best, if possible, we start from the beginning and we talk about your journey into the fitness industry.
For sure, dude. And I'll try and keep it relatively short because I know I speak a lot on my own podcast and my Instagram about this. So, yeah, my name's Nathan Collins. I'm a personal trainer, online coach. My first personal training job was October 2017. The kind of backstory was I went to university. The goal was to be a primary school teacher. So I did a sports coach development degree, obviously qualified or got a 2-1 from university. Went to London to do a 2-year course, PGCE. And the first year would have been a TA kind of year, and the second year would be PGCE. Yeah. And I got through the first year, and it got to kind of like Easter, and I kind of just decided it just wasn't for me. And obviously I had heart-to-hearts with my partner, Carly, and we spoke a lot about it. And she knew my heart wasn't in it, and it was kind of like a potential safer option. So from there, from Easter, worked for 6 months to get the qualification whilst I was obviously still at the school.
Yeah.
We moved to Chelmsford, and then I got my first personal training job. And then since then, just kind of powered through with obviously the job that I initially got liquidated, had to move gyms, powering through online coaching as well. And yeah, it's been a crazy kind of 3 years or so, but loved every second.
Absolutely, Nathan. And there's so much within that as a top level for us to get really toward into. And we've had conversations previously about the path you went down with the teaching. Do you want to explain to the listeners a little bit about what influenced that choice and kind of where it came to its maybe bit sticky conclusion?
Yeah, it's one of those where obviously, please, if there's any listeners out here that you are a teacher yourself, or you know anyone that's a teacher, please don't ever take anything that I say out of context, because it's just my own personal journey, my own personal feelings towards the career that I wanted to have. I wasn't an academic at primary school, high school. I kind of floated with life, and obviously got to university, got a 2-1, and I didn't really kind of take a step back and think about what I wanted to do. Yeah. I just kind of went the way that I felt like I should do, which, like most people, when you don't really have an idea what to do, you kind of, I wouldn't say go down the safe option, but you look at it, you look at the career that potentially you're going to have, you think, oh, absolutely fantastic. So I kind of went along with it, and obviously I felt that I was good with it because I had a background in sports coaching. I coached teams, obviously, through university. I got many experience, got into a school. I had experience working in the school as well. Yeah. And it was fantastic. And, I really enjoyed it. But as kind of time went on, you just know, like, deep down, like, something isn't for yourself. And I knew that, like, it sounds really cringy to kind of say, but I knew that I was not doing what I should be doing. I always saw myself doing something else. And obviously with a passion for fitness, and obviously not understanding what personal training was going to involve, it was one of those where it's either kind of now or never. I was 21, 22. And luckily for myself, I've got a fantastic girlfriend, and she supported me throughout the whole kind of journey.
Yeah, I always enjoy that part of your story, Nathan, where you'd kind of gone ticking along this path just towards what was maybe the safe option that would have given you a pretty solid career by all accounts, given that teaching is a great career. It's a good salary, good working hours. Well, unless you have to do a lot of marketing outside of that, and good holidays and a great pension and great support. But if your heart's not fully in it, I imagine that that 9 till 3 p.m. or whatever it is in the school would be extremely challenging. And I've always been a big one for what you spend your 40, 50, 60, however many hours a week you work. You need to enjoy it to an extent. You need to get something from it, or it's going to be a long 40, 50 years before you retire, and you look back and you think, I didn't enjoy an awful lot of that, and I didn't really service myself within that period. One of the things that you've told me before is that there was maybe a little bit of an influence from your family to go down that route, Nathan, and was that quite a difficult thing to go against in the end?
It was difficult, and if I'm honest, it's still difficult now. It's very difficult to talk to my family in regards to what I actually do, because full well it's no one in my family self-employed, no one kind of understands social media, so it is very difficult to have those conversations. I think from my mum and dad point of view, they've been fantastic with me throughout the whole experience of that transition, obviously before that as well. I just think they wanted the best for myself, and they saw that pathway as, okay, Nathan's going to be a teacher. He's going to get an X amount each year, and he's going to do well for himself, and he's going to take a few years to do really well. I think as well because my brother, my oldest brother, he's an actor. He works in London. He's an incredibly intelligent guy. I always say that he took the brains from myself, and that probably is that is probably true. My sister was a teacher, so looking at my brother, he's done really well. He's the intelligent one in the family. My sister, she's a hard worker. She was a teacher. And you know what, Nathan, like you could do that. You've got the enthusiasm, you've got the communication, you're really well with people, and you can kind of go down that route. So from that point of view, they were very, very supportive, and I've got nothing against that, because you'd rather that way than the other way. The transition was very difficult to kind of explain to them, and I've kind of spoke about on my podcast a few times, and it's stuff that I'll open up probably more in the future down the line in regards to that kind of initial 6 months and what that was like personally.
Yeah.
But it was very hard kind of going back home to Ipswich, because I'm from Chelmsford. I live in Chelmsford, so I'm far away, and kind of, how's it going, Nathan? Yeah, it's all right. And that was a very, very difficult period of time, and they were supportive, but I don't know, it's just really, really kind of hard. And
your family always want the best for you, but especially when you're going into a career that's, like you say, maybe not as viewed as stable from the outside world as a teaching career, and particularly when you maybe had that roadmap there with your sister who had a good teaching job and was doing well in that space, and mum and dad are thinking, Nathan, there you go, go do that. You like you say, good communication skills, passionate about helping people. Go and get involved in that and make good money and have a stable career, and they don't have to worry about supporting anymore, which is what obviously a lot of families care about. But you've gone a little bit against that. You've gone with your gut. You've gone with your passion. Carly's been a massive support for you, your partner, and you've moved to Chelmsford. I know you went through one of the quickfire PT courses, as many of my former PT and online coach guests did as well. What did it look like once that was done? What was the next steps?
Yeah, so I think the main reason I did that online course was, obviously I decided by Easter. I knew I was at the school until the end of July, and I wanted to, because I was in London at this point. We decided to move to Chelmsford just to create a really kind of positive environment for ourselves where I can really kind of push on. No one knows who I am. I'm just Nathan, the personal trainer, and yeah. So obviously I was doing an online course. Ideally, I would rather do a slightly different course. So we moved to kind of Chelmsford, and luckily where we actually moved to, there was a gym opening up literally right opposite myself. So I think we moved here end of July. The gym was open, I think, start of October, but I was working with them from sort of September onwards, just to help them with kind of leaflet dropping and marketing and whatnot, and got involved there really quick. Luckily, I was really kind of supported by the kind of manager at the gym. There was a Facebook live, it was a Facebook live to introduce the gym on Essex Live. So for the first couple of weeks, I got a handful of clients from that. Obviously, they recognised my face, and like anything with personal training, if they recognise your face and you look like a knowledgeable and a decent person, and that does kind of put you in the right direction. And then kind of went from there.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know that initial period in the gym is probably the the kind of litmus test for all personal trainers when it comes to building their online business, particularly when you've gone to a new city, a new town, where you're not going to maybe pick up family and friends as clients to get you started and get the ball rolling. You've had that great start where you've got a couple of clients off the back of doing the promotional stuff for the gym opening. Like you say, they recognized you when they signed up for the gym. They were happy for you to do the coaching. The model at the gym you were at was actually quite favorable for picking up clients, wasn't it, from what you've told me before, compared to maybe your standard commercial gym that's a bit more of a jungle? Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit around that and some of the skills that you put into practice, maybe you didn't even know you had at that point, to build your client base?
Yeah, so the gym that I first joined at Sweat, obviously it got liquidated. I think it was middle of kind of 2019. But the gym that I worked at Sweat, it was 15 hours of kind of free labor as such. It was free, lots of 5-hour shifts. Within those shifts, you obviously have to clean, you have to do classes. We actually did something called a green PT. Session, which was like a 20 to half an hour session for the customers to do at the gym. They could book online, they could book them yourself. So yes, once I kind of moved on to rent, and obviously we can always talk about that, it was very challenging to kind of shift my clients from that, okay, I'm not offering that once a month free PT now, my hours, this is what I offer. That was a very difficult obstacle to kind of to come over. But initially, from a sales point of view and a marketing point of view, it's a taste test. You know, with classes, with the free session, it's like, this is what I'm about. This is 20 minutes for myself. Oh shit! Like, I'd love to have a little bit of, that sounds really weird, a little bit more Nathan.
That's it though, isn't it? Because I remember that, having trained at a Sweat gym for a period as well. There was different tiers of membership, and if you had the green membership, you got that 15-20 minute session with a PT each month. And that obviously the PTs would take the different spin classes, circuit classes, Zumba classes, whatever it was. And for me, like, I always look externally from a sales perspective, and I'm thinking, that's your opportunity to speak to your perfect demographic of people who already pay a membership to come into this gym, that don't already have a personal trainer, to show them that you're the personal trainer for them. And like you say, they want a little bit more, Nathan. That's a great point, because if they work with you for 20 minutes or they come to that class with you and they think, wow, he's one, really knowledgeable, he makes me work hard, he speaks well to me, we get on well, which is half the battle when it comes to finding the right trainer, then what would it be like if I paid for 2 sessions a week for 12 weeks or whatever package you were offering at the time? Then that's the environment. And I often see PTs moaning about I'm having to do spin class tonight. And I'm thinking, in my world, if I got to pitch effectively what that is, a pitch to 15 or 20 of my ideal customers, like, I don't even know how much that would be worth to me. Like, tens of thousands of pounds in terms of what I do, but to a personal trainer, that'd be worth like thousands of pounds potentially right in front of you. And you shouldn't obviously see the clients as money bags. That's not what I'm trying to get at, but it's an opportunity to convert leads into clients. And I guess you managed to do that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, yeah, that, your mentality, like you're just saying a second ago, it's an opportunity. Whereas I remember a lot of the kind of PTs initially, it was like come in for a shift. And don't get me wrong, like, no one wants to clean the toilets from a personal training point of view, and no one wants to clean the treadmills. But it's that every single shift, it's the engagement. It's like, you just have to drop little kind of value, bits of value. Like I said, it's a kind of taste test as a person. It's that 5-hour shift that goes a long, long way. And yeah, it's hard work to begin with, but once the wheel's in motion, those 15 hours a week, absolute goldmine, mate.
Yeah, you've spoken to me before about the attitudes of people within the gym. Do you want to maybe share what that was maybe like a little bit in terms of who was around you, your peer group?
Yeah, it was a very difficult situation, if I'm honest, to be around, to begin with, from the gym that I was at, because a lot of them were like myself, they were new PTs. It was just a different kind of mentality and an approach to person training and business. And again, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but of course I stepped foot into it, not really kind of, I'm learning on the job at the same time. But, you know, I had kind of PTs there that had the kind of wrong attitude, you know, always came with the wrong uniform on. You'd see them in sessions, they don't really look like they want to be there. You kind of have conversations with them as a person, and like I said, I'm so enthusiastic about this. Like, I love this. Like, even at the 5-hour shifts, I was absolutely loving it. Speak to them, and it's just like, yeah, no, it's just what it is. And
Mhm.
that was very difficult to get around. And I'm very much a sort of person where you've got to create the right environment. You've got to create a positive environment. You've got to be around the like-minded people. And unfortunately, there was personal trainers, online coaches there, like who I speak to, like through social media, and there's a few that I have met in Chelmsford that are fantastic and on the same wavelength and inspire you and motivate you, and at the same time. But then unfortunately, 90% of the kind of PTs, they don't see it as a business. And when I stepped foot into the industry and what I was going into, all day long-term goal is this is a 1, 3, 5, 10-year business. I kind of knew the direction I want to
Yeah.
go. And you come across a lot of people that just see this as a summer fling or a year thing before going on to another job. And yeah, that was difficult to get my head around.
Yeah, completely agree on what you said about environment, where you're trying to make it like an enthusiastic, positive environment, because that will feed on to the potential clients you've got, and it will feed on to the clients that you've got in terms of them getting a good experience when they're with you in the gym. And I certainly know from other roles where maybe there's people in your team or your business that aren't bringing the same vibe as you, and it can be challenging. It maybe it almost restricts you. And even if you look at your, like, in terms of social circle, maybe some people you spend time with when you're at university or school who don't quite share the same drive and ambitions as you, they get left behind because you just not in a rude way, but you just move forward because you need people around you that are pushing you in the same direction, which is so important. And I think you can see that with the kind of connections that we built online. I mean, for the listeners' knowledge, Nathan and I and probably 5 or 6 others that were all posting regularly on Instagram. Most of the guys were PTs apart from me. We're in like a WhatsApp group. We were like engaging each other's Instagram posts. We were talking in that chat about like, oh, what kind of content do you think people respond well to? What kind of coaching sheets are you using? All this kind of stuff that the guys were talking about. And I guess in some ways that replaced the staff room that you had at Sweat with people to speak to about what you need to be doing to grow your business.
Yeah, for sure. I think from the obviously I'm not really necessarily part of any engagement groups at the moment because uh, there's a potential, Instagram shadow bans and bits of, but obviously I'm connected with a lot of people. But
It was
initially,
different back
mate,
then, wasn't it? It was different
it,
back then. It was good to meet people through that. And like I say, I'm like you don't use them anymore, but the people that you connected with from them, you stay in touch with the right ones. I'm sure you're the same.
yeah, and absolutely spot on. And that engagement group for me is incredible. And I remember at the time when I think it was Cam Mackay, who obviously is doing incredibly well right now, and he was the one that introduced me into the group, and obviously came across yourselves and a few others. And I remember sort of speaking to Carly, like, this is fantastic. These guys, like, every single day they're posting fitness content, they're providing value and education. I remember sort of saying to her, like this is what I am. This is what I want to do. This is I'm now among people who are my kind of fitness professionals as such.
How good
So
is
that
that though?
was,
It just
oh
levels you
mate,
up. It just feels so
yeah,
good when you connect with people like that.
yeah, it was fantastic, and that was part of the reason why I kind of made the move to online coaching probably a lot earlier than what I should have done. And that was a mistake. I think that was early kind of 2018 because I saw other people doing it, and I was like, I just want to get stuck into that. That's where I want to be going, and I obviously just jumped too quickly, but obviously took that back a few steps.
That's quite funny. We've kind of segued into social media there, so let's go there. But first, when you say you launched your online coaching too early, appreciate that came from a good place in terms of you were like motivated by the guys around you. Like some of the boys in that chat were smashing online coaching at that stage as well, and I guess maybe you were like, I want in on that. Like I can do that too. What wasn't in place for you to really maximize at that point, do you think?
Yeah, and that it's actually something that I hopefully to provide some sort of value to listeners right now. And because I see a lot of kind of personal trainers, online coaches, or new online coaches try and do this. It's the fact that the systems just weren't in place. So it'd be like someone messaged me online, blah blah blah. I'd be like, join my online coaching service, and there was no service. It was a sheet that I would have. It would be a back and forth message on WhatsApp, and that was pretty much it. Because I didn't actually know what online coaching myself. I just thought it was, here's a plan, we'll check in a few days, and then that's it. And I do actually see that with online coach or personal trainers now. You've got to, I personally think, if you're looking to get into online coaching, having that personal training background of actually dealing with people on a regular basis, actually finding out what people want and the service they're after, and how you've got to be in the game a little bit to acknowledge your weaknesses of your service to make them better, rather than, let's just jump straight into it. So yeah, that was a massive kind of error on my behalf. But it was one of those things where I always think that everything happens for a reason, and the position I'm in at the moment, which is, obviously, of course, can always be better, and I'm still working on it. But I don't think I would be doing what I am today if it wasn't for those mistakes, early kind of 2018.
That's such a good point. And like you say, you kind of went back to the drawing board, you withdrew, you focused again on building that one-to-one business. You got fully booked, you got onto rent with at Sweat and with your PT, and things started to blossom from there, and you still focused on your social media. So we can maybe talk a little bit about that, because for the listeners that don't know Nathan at the moment, he is one of the most consistent content creators on social media across a number of platforms. Everyone knows that for a long time, I was extremely robotic and like just churning out Instagram content day after day. Nathan is like absolutely like that, but across multiple platforms. Nathan, do you want to tell the guys a little bit about some of the platforms you post on, some of the different things that you do for each platform, and which maybe platform is best for an online coach? I know you've got some interesting opinions on that.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and to be fair, with this whole kind of COVID-19, obviously it's horrible what's happened, but for my business, it's been a blessing in disguise, because it's just allowed me to take a massive step back, a massive breather, and think, actually, Nathan, like, stop working, crazy amount of hours, stop trying to do everything, just take it back a little bit and actually assess where you want to go. And definitely social media falls under that. So the social media platforms I use at the moment, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts.
YouTube.
I think that's it. YouTube. Yeah, YouTube
Yeah.
as well. So the way that I kind of structure my content is Instagram is always the number one, personally, from a reach point of view and the value and education that you can provide on it. And I still love the fact that, from a picture point of view, if you have an aesthetic picture, that can reach so many people. And if you have the right kind of information, then fantastic. From a video point of view, the saves, like, that's why I've been trying to do so many sort of videos on there, because the saves is crazy. They're all different in different ways. The way I kind of segment it is like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok are kind of more Nathan Collins Fitness. Podcast and LinkedIn a little bit, and I'm still trying to, we spoke about briefly before in terms of LinkedIn and finding the feet and ways to kind of benefit from that platform. But at the moment, that's more of a, let's help kind of PTs and online coaches with their own business and tell my own story as such. So that's kind of how I break it down. I think if you're a fitness professional and looking to improve your kind of personal training business and online coaching business as well, I think Instagram and YouTube, hands down, should be the go-tos. Touched on Instagram a second ago. I think YouTube, it just gives you that little bit of an insight of creating content that you wouldn't potentially get away with on Instagram, and you can actually provide a little bit more about who you are. And I know it's still edited and you do little clips, but at the moment I'm doing sort of walkthrough videos and things like that to kind of, this guy, he knows his stuff, he's not just kind of editing and copying and stuff. So and obviously TikTok's just a bit of a laugh, man.
Yeah, the thing about just to touch on your TikTok though, that's the one that just goes crazy sometimes in terms of the viral reach. It's not a closed shop, and anyone that's not got a massive Instagram following at this point, do not be discouraged, because you can still have a significant impact when you've got 500, 600, 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers as you scale it, and it grows nicely based on that. But TikTok's the one where your reach can just go crazy off the back of like one video, and you've had a few that have just gone bonkers, haven't you? What's the kind of formula on TikTok at the moment? You're posting regularly on there as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like 2 or 3 times a day, a mixture of content. Obviously, it has kind of come down a little bit in regards to reach. Like, kind of grew reasonably quickly, pretty quick, and it has, like, has kind of come down. It's a bit like Instagram, YouTube. You know, when someone first starts YouTube or first starts Instagram, it's the followers and followers. It builds up, and I guess the kind of algorithms might change. Your content might become too samey. So you've got to find different ways of kind of actually find an audience. With TikTok, it's just consistent, like with Instagram, 2 or 3 times a day. Try and just keep it really short, simple, easy in the eye. What's really good with TikTok that I love a lot is obviously they have the whole like system, which we can always touch on with Instagram, has kind of gone away a little bit, but the like, it saves the video. So by liking and by commenting, it's going to boost your reach a lot more. And obviously if they like it, they can save it and they can view it. But it was just something that I played around with, and it's gone really well. But I think with platforms, you've just got to see what's best for you and your business. And I remember something that Jamie Alderton said a handful of months ago. He always said, like, pick 2 or 3 kind of platforms and just go all in on them. And I did that for a long time before that, and obviously carried on. But I listen to a lot of Gary Vee now, and I know that's his name gets chucked around all over the place, and it's completely understandable. And he always says that you can offer so much on so many different platforms if done correctly. And that's something that I've looked into my business and found ways of, okay, how can I grow on this? How can I provide value on education and go from there?
I can see that from your content though, because one of the things we've talked about before is that a lot of the time when you create that initial video, it can get reused from TikTok to Instagram to YouTube, to an extent on YouTube, because I know you obviously want a longer video on YouTube, but you can reuse it. And the same way that the post that you write for Instagram that's on an aesthetic photo, like you say, can be reused for Facebook, can be reused for LinkedIn, as long as the caption can be reformatted to a small extent, you can continue to hit multiple platforms, and there's different audiences on each one. And I've spoken to a few coaches now, and I guess now I'm putting it out in the public domain. If you are an online coach and you want higher ticket clients, LinkedIn is the place to go, because the guys on there, and the girls as well, are corporate workers. They have typically a higher salary because they're in potentially higher paying jobs, because they're on LinkedIn, they're in professional jobs. And they are willing to spend £250 a month on a good quality online coach. The other thing to be aware of, LinkedIn does not have very many coaches posting on it at the moment. So if you can get in there and start to grow, you will potentially reach a lot of them. And I see Nathan is ticking along on there. Rowan Wire, is a previous guest of the podcast, is on there, and he's smashing it as well. And he picks up some clients through it as well. So it's an interesting one where if you can get your message right, maybe a slight adapting of what you're posting on Instagram, then there's the opportunity to become an authority on there. And much like TikTok, the algorithm, which everyone's going to roll their eyes at, is much more favorable because there's a lot more organic reach. So if for example, I like or comment on Nathan's post on LinkedIn, it's like Facebook was back in the day, where you used to see everyone at school liking each other's photos because it shows on your newsfeed, which for growing is ridiculously good compared to Instagram, where if you like something, nobody sees that. Just you're the only one that's aware that you've liked that post, so your friends can't get on board with what you're liking apart from maybe through the explore page. So it's interesting, your approach to all these different socials, Nathan. Do you want to maybe tell us just very top line, what are the main things that you try to do with an Instagram post? Because that's your, like you say, your bread and your butter. What are the kind of main things you try and do to build your audience and to give value to the ones that are already there?
Yeah, 2 things with Instagram. I think the value in education. When I say value in education, it's like when someone starts an Instagram account or a fitness account, it's always like how to track your macros or how to track calories, and it's just that simple. Like you've just got to find a way of putting your own spin on it, make it very, very simple, but then educational at the same time. And that's what I was saying, like in regards to kind of PT and online coaching, it does take time. Same applies to social media. It takes time to really understand what works for those posts. I think as well, saves reaches the more saves you get in posts, the further your reach is going to go. And with pictures. They're not like videos where people can save it and do the workout, whatnot. But with posts, if you can try and make it like 5 motivational tips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really simple. Someone's going to save it. It's going to reach more
Yeah.
people. Get on the explore page, and that's really good. And just to finish up on the social media, which I obviously didn't touch on a second ago, is with each platform, find how that works, find how you can reach, find how it's going to help your business. And what I did at the start of kind of lockdown was obviously wrote down every single social media platform, find out the ways that you can kind of grow on that platform, because every way is different. Like you said, with LinkedIn, and in regards to the comment, TikTok, you can just go viral. Facebook, if someone shares a post on their page, you can reach more people, and just find out ways on how to grow, but to follow suit with your business at the same time.
Yeah, of course, and because for those that didn't kind of really hit home with that message, there is you're not just posting for the sake of it. It's not just a case of I post twice a day on Instagram and it's just pointless posts. It's actually like, I think pretty much every day during lockdown you posted like a workout for people to do that's either no equipment or limited equipment, which is so relatable and so helpful. And you can see from your engagement in terms of like genuine people like liking, commenting, saving, you've built like a lot of trust with them. And when we come out of the back of this, you'll be in a really good position because of that. And that probably leads us into handling adversity. And there's probably been 2 cases that will spring to mind when we talk about your situation, Nathan. One of those is the dreaded C word, and we'll get onto that. But you've mentioned already that early 2019, mid 2019, Sweat liquidated, which was the gym that you've been working at for well over a year. What happened there, and what was the situation like?
Yeah, that was a horrible situation, but a blessing on the other sides. Yeah, so the gym, it was a very, very small kind of company. I think it had, well, obviously you know of yourself, there was one up in Scotland.
Yeah.
There was sort of 4 or 5 gyms scattered around the country. And yeah, just overnight just went into liquidation. There was kind of whispers. I knew one of the kind of, I don't know the word to use. She wasn't a director, but she was from Chelmsford that helped kind of really kind of push the gyms all over up and down the country. So she kind of gave me a bit of word of warning that they were going to close or potentially going to close. And obviously I saw the one in Scotland closed, and it kind of just filtered down. Yes, but yeah, that pretty much happened overnight, and it was a very horrible situation, and something very similar to what's happened right now. I think it's happened on the Thursday or Friday, so I just gave myself the whole weekend off to really kind of think about what I want to do going forward, what gyms to open, because I was still, October 2017, it was kind of like March, April time, it's kind of 18 months. It's not a long period of time at all to be in your PT career, because it does take time to build a business, and obviously that happens. But yeah, took that weekend off. Obviously there was tears, there was times where you're thinking, shit, like what the fuck am I going to do? There's self-doubt creeps in, but going back to the positive environment and the mentality, I think if you kind of have that in place, you have all the tools to kind of move forward, and that's what you got to do. You got to be proactive, you got to be adaptive, and you just got to be strong-minded. And yeah, took that weekend off, assessed all gyms that potentially I'd like to work at. And then Riverside, luckily, again for myself, it was a very small gym, Riverside, and now I think it's the largest in Essex. They built obviously a new complex. I think it was happening like kind of late June, early July. So it was only kind of like a month of working in this like really, really small gym. I'm talking it felt like a hotel gym. I can't believe how long that gym itself was there in the leisure centre. But now it's got like a massive complex, and I've been there since.
Yeah, I remember chatting to you at the time because, like I say, I think I was still a member at Sweat, but I wasn't training there very often because I was traveling a lot with work at that point. But I knew it had closed, and I reached out to you, and you were like, "Yeah, we're getting rumors that it's closing." And then like a day later, you got your email or whatever it was from the management to say, "Sorry, everyone that works here, it's changed days." And I just think they got their model wrong, which is unfortunate in terms of number of members and whatnot. But it shakes you to your foundations when your place of work is not there anymore. And I appreciate anyone that's listened to the Solo podcast will know that often adversity is what tests us, and it tested Nathan, and you can see that you came through it in a strong position, because much like myself, you had that mindset where I'm going to be an asset wherever I go, and whatever gym you went to, so Riverside, as long as geography wise it was in a reasonable location, you were bringing clientele, so you were going to be really valuable to that gym. So you had an opportunity to say to Riverside, listen, I've got a good clientele come from Sweat, they all need to find a new gym. As long as you're not like a completely different offering in terms of like Sweat was like 15-20 pounds a month, if Riverside was like 50 pounds a month, then you might have seen a big drop off. But as long as it was a similar offering, they still want to work with Nathan Collins PT, they still want to come with you, and so that makes you a good asset. But of course there's still that factor that you think, oh god, because all these people have moved gym or changed gym, will they still be my clientele, will my book still be there? But I think you can see that the work that you put in before that and the work you put in after that paid off. Do you think that experience braced you a little bit for what we experienced with COVID, when due to lockdown we have the gyms closed, and at the time of recording, not to time date this too much, the gyms are still closed at the moment across the UK?
Yeah, do you know what? I think it helped massively in regards to that situation. I still had that initial fuck, like, you know, it's okay to accept to cry and to think like, shit, like this is going to be really kind of tough over the next however many weeks or days or whatever. And but yeah, it did, after having that initial kind of overnight time of a bit of a worry. It did put me instead, and I remember at the time, when going back to when Sweat closed, I said to myself, like, this is the, I want to kind of really kind of push online coaching. I really want to kind of go further my service in case this happens again, or the fact, like, in my long-term goal is to eventually move into full-time online coaching. But yeah, so obviously it did happen again. Obviously not the situation. No one could have predicted what would happen. But luckily for myself, obviously I had my online coaching service in place, and full well, that's not the majority of my income. One-to-one was the majority of my income, but I had systems in place where you could see from an outside viewpoint my kind of service. It's very well run. It's hopefully run by someone that's knowledgeable but relatable at the same time. And the fact that I had that in place, really kind of benefited this period of time. But I agree. I think at that time, it's, Sweat closing, I kind of thought to myself, this is not going to happen again. Or if it does happen again, I'm going to completely plan for it.
Yeah, like you say, when the COVID situation occurred, you already had the systems in place. You were already a solid online coach. Like you say, the majority of your percentage of your income was still coming one-to-one, and that's something that, like you say, you're working on over the long term to become a more sustainable online business entirely. But because you had those systems in place, there was the option for those people that could no longer access a gym or access a one-to-one PT to get a really high level of service from you. And if that COVID period was not a wake-up call for a large number of personal trainers in the fitness industry, then I do not know what will be. And we've joked about it, and some of the guys that I chat to that are doing really well in the space, the first 2 weeks of lockdown, everyone and their granny was posting regularly on Instagram, trying to give value, advertising an online coach. And that's fine, because you had to do that to keep your head above water. And I respect the hustle. In fact, I actually love it. I love to see people working hard. But we're now, what, 10, 11, 12 weeks in. Nathan's still bashing out daily content, helping people. He's still offering online coaching. So many people have disappeared, mate. Where have they gone? I don't know what's going on.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. And I agree with your point. You've got to make ends meet, and you've got to do what's best for yourself. But I always see it like a phase. It's people dip in and out. They potentially don't do it for the right reasons. They don't have a long-term goal in place. They don't really know where their business is heading. So they kind of see other PTs and online coaches want to do it. They try it themselves. And it's just one of those things with the industry. It's just what happens. And I think with the Facebook groups, like we're kind of saying, and the daily workouts as well, like going back to the social media, and I always talk about planning and the short-term goals and everything like that. When that kind of happens, I use that weekend to plan, okay, this is going to potentially go on. I think I initially sort of said 8 to 12 weeks from just my general thoughts. What am I going to get out from this 8 to 12 weeks? Okay, I'm going to boost my online coaching service so it's even more effective and kind of increased when we come out of lockdown, which fingers crossed, hopefully it is in the motion of. social media point of view, I'm going to improve this and this, not just numbers, but the actual kind of engagement and getting more people to understand who Nathan Collins Fitness is all about. And
Yeah.
those plans in place, and obviously when the content and everything that I've put together, it's not just something like, oh, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do this today, and I've just seen Colin do this, I'm going to do exactly the same. It's all completely thought out. I kind of knew what I was doing, and like you said, with other PTs, online coaches, unfortunately, the transition is, yes, there's things that overlap, but the transition from a personal trainer to online coach is in some ways a completely different job. And some PTs are amazing PTs as a one-to-one person and that kind of service, but it's very difficult for some people to make that transition.
Yeah, it's that quality of systems in behind it as well, because you can be the most knowledgeable PT in the world, but if all you're giving your client is a Microsoft Word document with a few exercises and a meal plan on it, you're not in the same ballpark, let alone this. You're not even playing the same sport, let alone the same league as the guys like yourself and some of the other coaches that I connect with, who are providing just these brilliant documents, brilliant support, brilliant check-in system, just constant kind of leveling up of the support that you give to your clients. And that's not to say that people that jumped from being one-to-one PTs to trying to provide online support during COVID did anything wrong, but they need to start to look at now, when they come out of this, I need to invest in coaching systems. I need to invest in software that allows me to provide the best possible service to clients. Otherwise, people might have during this period thought to themselves, oh, I've always liked having a one-to-one PT, but during this, Nathan or whoever else they have as their coach has given me a brilliant online service. They might not go back to one-to-one PT, or they might cut back their one-to-one PT hours, which will massively affect people's businesses. So it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. One thing you mentioned that I'd like you to expand a little bit on, Nathan, was the change in your offering, because you set up your Facebook group. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about what that looked like and what drove that?
Yeah, so for the Facebook group, obviously, going back to social media and utilizing that other platforms, my kind of actual kind of audience and kind of sort of target areas is general pop. It goes anywhere from kind of more advanced kind of people that want to go into the gym, but of course it's expandable to anyone. I know some people listen to that and think, oh my God, you've got to have a niche, but I personally feel like I can kind of cater, and I've had the experience to deal with loads of other people. And Facebook wasn't necessarily a platform that I really kind of utilized before. I obviously, of course, you share your Instagram posts with your Facebook, and I've kind of, got a decent amount of engagement on there. But I thought to myself, actually, this is a real good opportunity to create some sort of community, some sort of group that I can reach whoever. They can invite their friends into it and go from there. So I think I did that. Again, I planned out for just sort of 6 weeks, a couple of free workouts or live workouts for people to get involved in. And with Facebook as well, which is really cool. Obviously, you've got all the kind of communities, you've got all the different areas where people kind of sign to. So you obviously put your group in there, and obviously people get involved. And that was really good. It probably wasn't as good as potentially I hoped. It was one of those things, a bit like what you were saying in regards to kind of PTs and online coaches, doing the home workouts for a few weeks. It was a little bit like that for the consumer. People getting involved for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and it just dies off. And I kind of caught on that pretty quick, and I was like, okay, yeah, once this kind of 6 weeks is over, then that's done, and put that time that I use for Facebook into something else. But yeah, it was just a bit of trial and error, mate. And yeah, it was one of those, and it was good whilst it kind of lasted. But I've kind of utilised those skills and of what I've learned from the live workouts, which I've now kind of put into YouTube, which I'm doing kind of sort of walkthrough videos there, which are doing reasonably okay.
Yeah, that's interesting on the Facebook group. I know that long term, one of the things that a lot of PTs will look at are things like membership sites and kind of group communities that they build, and that's a great way for you to maybe dip your toe into that with that kind of 6-week period where you were supporting a community behind a wall almost, and that'll be interesting moving forward. Now, for anyone that's not quite grasped this yet, Nathan's an extremely busy guy, and anyone that's not a fitness trainer, this will still be very interesting for you, because you've been working from home entirely during this period, working online on your laptop, on your phone, and you are cranking out a phenomenal volume of content, phenomenal output in terms of service for your clients. that means that you need to be relatively well organized, which for somebody like myself who works from home as well, I'll certainly appreciate this topic. What are some of the things that you do to be productive from home? And I've seen your calendar and how you do all that. So do you maybe want to share that a little bit with the listeners just now?
Yeah, for sure. And Colin, mate, I don't know, you probably like myself, like, I love structure, dude. I fucking love organization. Like, I love that shit. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what? I just don't know what I'd do about my life with structure, man. And, but yeah, it was regards to what I do. Obviously, people see like if some ways I may be a little bit too busy from a social media point of view, and I'm probably doing too much. And over time, like I said, nothing. I never regret anything. I learn from every experience, and um, from a business point of view, it's only going to be a positive. But I think from a routine and structure point of view, it's the way that I kind of worked out what suits me best is my steps, my morning mobility that I do to clear my head, my morning
Yeah.
coffee, man. I can't go out my morning coffee, just to really kind of plan my day ahead. And then once that kind of 8 o'clock hits, it's all systems go, and I've kind of wrote down exactly what I'm going to do, whether it's editing an Instagram post in the morning, posting on LinkedIn. The morning tends to be a social media / admin / kind of clients, and then the afternoon tends to be again kind of clients. It kind of overlaps morning and afternoon, but then afternoon I really drill in with the YouTube content, the Instagram content to film for the following day. And I think once you have those systems in place, dude, and once you have that kind of cycle and that momentum, it just doesn't seem like if you don't kind of keep that up for a few days, it feels like you're being very, very lazy. And
Yeah.
if anything, it's actually quite simple to do. And I get a lot of messages from myself like, how do you keep posting, and what tips have you got? And it's like, just plan your day out, just make sure you're not doing too much and going too crazy, and you're just ticking those boxes, dude. Like, it's as simple as that. And once you get if you want to kind of learn how to do something like for example, like Photoshop and bits and bobs. Before lockdown kind of hit, I was still a little bit iffy with Photoshop. As soon as you learn how to use those platforms, which may take a whole morning, may take an afternoon, which is can be frustrating. Once you learn how to do those things, you can do it in 5 or 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's getting past that point. And
It's
yeah,
that
you're pretty,
investment. It's that investment of time initially. And when you're talking about structure there, everyone's going to roll their eyes when I say this, but it's clear that you've built a structure that there's a number of habits that exist within it where, like you say, the morning is you're posting and creating your content, responding to comments and engaging, and across all the multiple platforms. Afternoon, you're creating it for the next day or the days after that to kind of create that backlog that's ready to create again. And that's just how you see your day. And you've got that to-do list that you create when you've gone for after you've done your steps and you're having your morning coffee. You're writing out, this is what must be done today. These are the non-negotiables, and that's relevant for anyone. So if you're sitting at a laptop like me and you're involved in insurance, you're involved in accounting, you're involved in marketing, whatever you're involved in, you can implement a similar structure, and you find that you actually free up a lot more time by being productive within those structures. Like, appreciate tonight it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and you and I are on a podcast, but that's because it's what we like to do. But I was done everything during my working day, 9 till 5 in the before I logged on at 9 o'clock. I did all my socials, and then after I logged off, I did my training session, did my socials, and I could be watching Netflix, I could be chilling out now because I've done and ticked all the major boxes. And you and I are both busy people, but because we have that structure, almost one of the phrases I quite like is discipline equals freedom. So the discipline that we have during the working day that we create ourselves, I appreciate you definitely create it yourself because you're self-employed, but it then frees up time for you to enjoy with Carly, you to enjoy with family, whoever you choose to spend it with when we're in more free time, in terms of outside of lockdown. But that kind of initial structure that you've got allows you to enjoy yourself more so outside that.
do you know what? Yeah, it's something that I need to touch on. And someone sort of said to me the other day in regards to, you must be working all the time. And I kind of replied back saying, no, I'm not working all the time. I'm just working very, very efficiently with the time I have, because I think that time off, and like you said, I love this shit, man. I love kind of talking to you everything fitness and business, and you're very similar. We're on a podcast at 8:30 in the evening, but this time right now we could be chilling because we've done everything for the day. But that kind of chilling time, just kind of relaxes me, sets me up to go again, because you can't go every single day full on. Yeah, some people can do it. Some people are absolute machines, but everybody needs that time off. Just kind of set your day up. For me at the moment, obviously I've got some evening clients and whatnot, but 8 to 6, like I'm full on, like I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It gives me enough time to get so much done. 6 p.m. me and Carly were chilling, man. We're making a little sofa bed down there, and we're chilling out, and that's, for me, that's very important, and something going forward past lockdown, when I'm back into the gym and doing some one-to-one PT. I've learned from this experience that you can't work every single hour of the day. You just got to work harder rather than, you got to work smarter rather than harder.
Yeah, it's that you're like working smart, but you're working hard when you do work, and that's the great point. And like you say, because you've like gotten really good at creating content and you've invested that initial time, you're much more efficient. It's the same way with the podcast. I can bang them out so much faster because I've done like 17, 18 episodes now. So it's a lot easier for me to turn them out quicker. Whereas the first one, I was taking ages to like make sure it all was perfect. Although podcasts are a lot easier to edit than YouTube. And that's why I'm not on YouTube, apart from just banging up the Zoom video.
Love that.
I've absolutely loved that, Nathan. I think one of the other things that I like to cover with most guests, particularly guys that are self-employed or are self-motivated, are just some of the self-development sources that you've used in recent years to build that mindset. Because you're now 3.5 years into the game, mentally, and your approach to dealing with things like COVID-19 and sweat going and growing a business under pressure from nothing in a new town. You've got a strong mindset. Is there anything you would point the listeners in the direction of?
Yeah, there's a few things I want to kind of say in regards to this point. I think a lot of that is internal, and I like the thought of doing things that are very difficult, or when I kind of think, when I kind of get scared about doing something, and I think, oh, that's too much, and then kind of doing it and overcoming that. Firstly,
Yeah.
I love that so much, dude, and that really kind of drives me. I think from an external point of view, from a kind of books and podcasts, I think I spoke to Dylan, and I know you've appeared on his podcast as well, and he asked me about the self-development books. I haven't actually read that many kind of books in regards to self-development. I think there's a few, like The Power of Habit, which actually, to be fair, that was an absolute game changer for myself.
Yeah.
Charles Duhigg or something like that.
Yeah, I've read that too. Charles Duhigg or something. I think he's French, but yeah, class book.
Absolute legend, Charles is. But yeah, how to win friends, influence people. Those couple of books were fantastic, especially before starting as a PT and kind of getting into the routine of dealing with people and habits. But do you know what, mate? I'm much more engaged, and I learn a lot more from podcasts. Like, your podcast has been fantastic. And I know I'm sitting on your podcast right now, but you have so many different people on there that you learn a lot from, and I actually learn better and develop better listening to other people and their experiences and what they offer and how they've learned than I do by reading someone's book based on one person.
Yeah.
And especially with podcasts as well, you can listen on the go. Like in the morning when I'm working doing editing, I can listen to podcasts. And I think from that point of view, and I spoke about Gary Vee before, I sit down my breakfast, I watch a 10-minute video, so I'm kind of always learning daily. I wouldn't say I haven't got time, because you can always make time, but I probably haven't got time to sit down and read a book. So that's why I like the podcasts and
The
videos.
important point you've made there, though, is you've picked a source that you respond to and resonate with. Like, how much have you picked up from podcasts over the years? Lots. So if it doesn't quite fit your lifestyle to read as much, and like, don't get me wrong, like I do like to read before bed, and I'm great for that. But I'm also like, I know that I take a lot away from podcasts as well and audiobooks, because like you say, when you're doing your steps, when you're maybe doing some pretty low level admin work on your laptop, you can be tuned into stuff that's just ticking away in the background, just making you that little 1% better, which adds up over time, as we know from The Power of Habit and from Atomic Habits, James Clear. But it's so good that you've identified that source, and appreciate there's so many podcasts out there, and there'll be lots that you listen to that are fantastic. But just knowing that that's the medium that you can listen to and level up just makes you feel comfortable in yourself. And it's not a case of you must read 10 books a year, or you must read or you must watch this YouTube or this number of YouTube videos. It's a case of picking and choosing the ones. And I think that's a theme that's come through in this podcast with a lot of guests. It's not a one size fits all. And I hate when people just prescribe like one size fits all, and it's a case of finding what works for you. And I can see that that's been the case for you, Nath.
Do you know what as well, Cole? Like from a self-development point of view, when you think of self-development, you think of books, you think of podcasts as well. What's worked well for myself, like obviously I have an interest in football, and unfortunately I support a very, very dog shit team in Ipswich. But you know, from a football point of view, like listen to how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer deals with Paul Pogba. Listen to you know, just like you can take, obviously a lot of it might not apply to you and your business and what you can take away. But that one small part that you take away makes a massive difference to your business. Like, you know, going back to your podcast, you know, they're not all PTs, they're not online coaches, not everyone in the industry, but because they're telling their experience and what they've learned, and they've got loads more experience than me, they're so much more mature and older, you pick so much from that and apply it to yourself. It's crazy. So if a listener's listening to this right now, like, the self-development books are fantastic, and podcasts and everything like that. But sometimes actually just find out what works for you, and you can kind of go outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I guess just to come back on that, sometimes I'll just listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video where it's two fairly intelligent or high achieving people just talking. And that's enough sometimes for me just to be like, just thinking about how they conduct themselves and how they hold themselves. Like you say, maybe, like you say, the football example, somebody will touch on like one little thing within like a 5-minute conversation. You'll be like, that's all I needed to hear. That helped me. And I love that. And like I say, I've definitely listened to podcasts before where the subject hasn't been like the most important thing or like the most interesting thing for me, but it's been two like articulate, well-spoken people that have like gone back and forth with like intelligent conversation. And it's got me ready to go on the phone at work and try and speak that way to other people, or it's got me ready to go and focus and work hard because these guys are making a lot of money or being really successful in their respective field. And I'm like, I want to be on that level as well. And I guess that's an insight into our minds there, Nathan, for everyone that's listening. Let's wrap up there, Nathan, in terms of telling the people where they can connect with you on the different platforms that you operate on.
Yeah, of course, dude. So Instagram, Nathan Collins with 2 N's. And Carly actually always says to me, whenever I say 2 N's, she says, like, it sounds like you're saying 2 N's at the end of Collins. So just to clarify, it's Nathan, another N, and then Collins. So that's Instagram. That's TikTok as well. YouTube, just Nathan Collins. And just to quickly plug my podcast as well, you know, it's for PTs, online coaches, fitness professionals as well, an insight into the fitness industry. And it's just to talk about people's experiences and again, my own journey and kind of what I've learned so far, and try and provide as much value and education as possible. And if you want to connect on LinkedIn, anyone listen to this, let's connect.
Yes, Nathan's pushing the LinkedIn big time. And just on Nathan's podcast, I don't work in the fitness industry, obviously I'm connected with a lot of people, but I've listened to it similar to what I spoke about there. I just sometimes like hearing two people speaking on a high level back and forth about an interesting subject, or even a subject that's not like top of my priority list, but it's just nice to tune in on. Last thing to say, guys, please get a screenshot of this, pop it in your Instagram story, tag Nathan and I. If you're on Apple and you haven't left me a 5-star review yet, I'll be coming to your house and telling you to get it sorted, because we're almost at 55 reviews and that's what I'm after. Hope you've all enjoyed this, and I'll speak to you all again very, very soon.